You're listening to Ask When, the podcast. Folks from all walks of life talk about their daily hustle and bustle, living and celebrating life, sharing tips on becoming champions, especially for those who are muscling mental and physical disabilities. Ask When, the podcast, with your host who has mustered over 30 years living with cerebral palsy and going strong. Author and cerebral palsy advocate Wynn Charles. Ask When, the podcast starts right now.
Welcome to Ask When, everyone. Today with me I have Giampiero, and so I'm going to let Giampiero take it away and explain more about his story. And yeah, so welcome, John.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be a guest in your show. So one of the quotes or one of the sayings that I've developed in the last few years is that you are the light at the end of the tunnel. And by that I means that we've grown up or we've heard the quote, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I believe that the light at the end of the tunnel, it's you. It's always been you. We all have this idea of like the optimal self that we wish we could be. And when we're going through trials and tribulations, the one that is going to get us out of the tunnel, it's us by becoming that ideal self. And it's not easy. It's hard. It's a lot of work. And but through self-work, through being honest with ourselves and realizing or being able to say, okay, this is where I'm at. What can I do to get out of this situation? In 2014, I was diagnosed with PTSD because in 2010, I was in the U.S. Army and I was in war in a combat zone. And through 10 months of seeing combat every day, it affected me in the long run. And I didn't realize it at the time, but as the years went by, I was overwhelmed with anxiety every day. And eventually in 2014, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I had a psychologist who helped me. For almost a year, every other week, I met with him. And later on, I realized that the one thing he had done for me was that he created the space for me to speak. And as I began to speak and tell my story, I began to hear myself. And I began to realize all the things that were true, all the things that were not true, and all the things, at least in my mind, like I'm not enough, I'm broken, I am this, I am that. And then I began to hear myself and realize, what can I do about the things that I can do? And being able to articulate that in front of the psychologist, which he really never gave me any advice. He just listened. And he allowed me over time to put myself together. And I am a big proponent of conversations. This is why conversations are so important.
Yeah, and I'm also a big proponent of going to see a psychologist when you're stuck. I lost my father in May, and so since then, including social distancing, I have a weekly standing appointment with my counselor, and it has saved me so much so. After my journalism degree, I'm thinking about going into psychology because people need more help now more than ever because of what's going on right now. So if I enter into the field of psychology, I said not to say that I'm going to do it because right now I'm trying to obtain a journalism degree, and I'll make my final decision by August whether it's going to be house coaching or a psychology degree because because I think the outside looking in And even if you have friends that or family that can listen to you, it's not the same. It's not the same, John. I
Hmm.
mean, you know this. I know
Yes.
this. And it's still not the same. And I was going back and forth. Finally, it got to my breaking point where my stepmom goes, "You better go see a psychologist, otherwise we're not going to be best friends here." And so my aide, who was with me at the time,
Mhm.
said, "Okay, okay, you need to back this up, and I'm going to help you do it. We're going to do the following steps. We're going to, number one, do this, do this, do this." And instead of essentially yelling at me, my aide took it as well, my aide took it into her own hands, and she said, "Okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And then we're going to do this." And ever since then, I've had a weekly psychology appointment because I
Mhm.
agree with you. Friends can't do it.
Right.
Friends are not psychologists.
Hmm.
So I agree with you in the sense that friends are loving, but they can't seem to handle
Right.
PTSD, let alone talk of what's going on right now. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to keep everyone positive and say, "How are you doing honestly?" And that's what a psychologist should do the first um, moment they meet you at every single session. "How are you doing today?"
Yes.
Not this, "Let's go into psychology and let's figure out strategies." Yeah, it's "How are you?" And then let's go into um, psychology strategies.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. 100%. I think often one of the things that I've realized is that, and this is what I realized through the time that I was seeing the psychologist, is that I was able to articulate what I needed, what I wanted. And when you are able to do that, you can ask people for what you need. Oftentimes, family, they want to help you, so they want to give you a list of tips. This is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, even though they mean well, they cannot give you what you need. Only you know what you need.
yeah. And I was in a state of denial. I was in a state of denial, number one, that I had just lost my dad. And now well, it's gonna be a year in May. A
Mm-hmm.
year later, I am at peace. At peace.
Yeah.
Because I have come to figure out that psychology is a good thing. And considering my dad had a psychology degree, which he didn't use, and but he never believed in psychology. He wanted everyone around him to
Mhm.
suffer. And I'm like, "Okay, dude, you, I'm like," and I lost my mom in 2010, and he, I tried to go see a psychologist back then, but
Mhm.
he put his foot down on that, and I'm like, "Okay, dude, you're not gonna get anywhere with me." And so, yeah. But I wanted to ask you this. Since you were in the combat zone, and if you don't mind me asking where you were in combat zone, I wanted to ask you this. now that you have a clear mental mindset
Mhm.
after coming out of combat doing psychology, how do you think that veterans should handle what's going on right now?
Okay, so I was in Afghanistan, and I, I arrived there December of 2009, and I was there until September of 2010. And I didn't realize I had a problem. I thought I was old enough to handle this, so I didn't really want to talk to anyone. But eventually, friends that were close to me reached out and they told me, "Hey, Giampiero, you're not the same guy we remember. You don't smile like you used to." So that was an aha moment. Okay, people who cared are getting out of their way, out of their comfort zone to tell me this. Okay, so at some point I saw someone. Now, what would I say to other veterans? I would tell them, find an outlet. Often family cannot help you because they don't have the skills to help you, but a psychologist would. So I would say, talk to someone. And if you don't want to talk to someone, get a piece of paper and a pen and start to write down, okay, there's something that I'm feeling right now. What is that? And put it into words, because until you give it a name, it will eat you up. You know, you've heard the saying, what's eating you?
Yeah.
And yeah, it eats you up. And it's the best example that I can that comes to my mind is, are you familiar with Harry Potter?
Oh yes, I'm familiar with Harry Potter. Of course, I'm a '90s kid. How
All
could
right.
you not be?
Do you remember how everybody was afraid to mention Lord Voldemort's name, and they would
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
"He who shall not be named," right?
yes,
And
yes,
then Harry Potter realized, wait a minute, we need to call him by his name.
yeah,
Until you call that thing that is eating you by its name, it will continue to eat you. Once
yeah,
you begin to articulate and put it into words, then you begin to have the power to push against it. This is why, if you cannot talk to someone, write it down and give it a name. What I'm feeling is, I'm feeling sad. What I'm feeling is, I'm feeling angry. And be willing to go deeper than that. Be willing, okay, what does that mean? What does that look like? What does it look like when it takes over me? Because sometimes it does take all over you. I had many moments when I had enough for my needs. My wife loved me. My kids were healthy. I mean, all these things that are just, it's a good life. And yet I've been overwhelmed with sadness. And you need to give it a name. You need to be able to articulate what it feels like. Does that make sense?
yeah. You need to put a name to the problem.
Yes.
And my psychologist, bless her heart, she said, and we were talking about this, and she said, "Well, what's freaking you out right now during this world epidemic and this world economic crisis?" And I said, "Not enough help for the disabled." So I said that to her. So the next thing I know, I am banging the drum about getting help for the disabled, and we are working on a project together, you guys, and myself and psychologist, my
Mhm.
psychologist, and I am tickled pink that she wanted to help me with this because it's been eating me up. So I think if you put a name to something that is eating me up, that's gonna
Yes,
be the better end of it.
yes, yes. And if I may, one thing that I suggest, and this is sometimes why I think that family, even when they mean well, cannot help us. Just because we say something doesn't mean we understand it. So immediately we say, well, I feel sad right now. And then we get interrupted by, it's okay, you're going to be fine. It's like,
Yeah.
let me articulate it wrong because I don't know what I'm feeling. So if you could just listen to me just for until I feel empty, because I don't know what I'm feeling. So don't take me too serious. Just listen to me empathically. Be empathetic. Just be there for me, because I'm trying to figure out what to call this thing that I'm feeling, and I don't know what to call it yet. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And so, if you had to move house and take 5 things with you, what would they be?
Okay, 3 come to mind. I would like something to write with, something to write on, water, because I always need water. What would the other 2 be? I would take my phone because I have a lot of audiobooks on my phone. So I love audiobooks. I've probably read over 300 or listened to over 300 audiobooks. So yes, so I have books, something to drink, something to write on, and maybe a blanket because I get cold easily.
And your family was the exception. Every time I ask that question, people say, "Can I take my family?" And yes, you guys can take your family.
Yeah.
And so, if your best friend was going to write a book about you, Gianpiero, what would the title be?
If I could choose the title, it would be "You Are the Light at the End of the Tunnel." Yeah.
Awesome. And what is your favorite book, and what's the title?
Okay. I have 2 books. The first one that comes to mind is 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. And if I may, the other one would be, I always have a hard time pronouncing it, Les Miserables or Les Miserables by Victor
Les
Hugo.
Miserables.
Yes.
Les Miserables.
Yes, for sure.
Why? Les Miserables. Why?
I love the main character, John Valjean, because the theme, for me at least, is this theme of you get to reinvent yourself. You are not who you used to be. Maybe that was a chapter in your life, and then life happens, and then you have to reinvent yourself, and then life happens again, and it goes on and on. You have to reinvent yourself as many times as it takes. In a way, you sort of aim for redemption. Okay, if I made mistakes, if I did something wrong, or if life happened, how do I become anew? And I think that's the message for me from the main character.
So, Les Miserables. There we
Yes.
go. And you guys, for those of you who are listening to this during the epidemic, Audible is giving a discount. I believe Kindle Unlimited is also giving a discount. The libraries are doing things virtually. Libby and Overdrive is a virtual platform that you can check out library books. So yes, go educate yourself on Les Miserables. And I think that would be fascinating, honestly. And so, John Paul, what is your morning routine?
Okay. When I wake up, I go to the bathroom, I shave. It's a win for me. Like, yeah, even though sometimes I do feel like I want to grow some facial hair, it gives me something to say, check, I've done it. I
Yeah.
shave, then I go in front of my computer, I listen to 1 hour of content, and I take notes. And then after I listen to 1 hour, it could be like a TED talk, a workshop, or an audiobook. And then I take notes. And then when I'm done with that, I write as much as I can until I get exhausted from it. look at my notes and just rewrite them. And that's my main routine for the morning.
And so, do you have any questions for me as we wrap this interview up?
Yeah, question for you. Can I ask about your father? And
Yeah, go ahead.
okay, and the reason why I'm going to ask you it's because I didn't grow up with my father, but the man who raised me, my uncle, right now he's going through kidney failure because everything shut down. I mean, he's sick. I get it, but because he cannot go to the gym anymore, he cannot go to the sauna. So little by little, we've noticed in the last few weeks that he's getting bloated. His body's failing, and I'm being faced with the reality of him not being here anymore.
Yeah.
And okay, what I want to ask you something about that, but I don't know what the question would be. Where do I start? Okay, where do I start? Do I start grieving now? I have a concept. Should I start writing down in paper who he was for me, what he did, and start the grieving process now as opposed to at the funeral?
As opposed to at the funeral, I started the grieving process with my own father. When he was physically alive. By the time he also, I don't share this part, but he also went into the hospital with kidney failure too. So I know exactly what you're doing. They said to us, you need to you need to bring it down to a bigger hospital because we can fix the kidney failure. And that was because he took so much Advil, my dad did, and to mask the pain of the lung cancer. But I would say to you, start grieving now. So at the time of the funeral, you could be at peace with everything. And I wish I came up with that idea on my own to start grieving now. And because when I left my dad in Denver, Colorado, May 18th, he didn't even look at me as I walked out of the room. I got a I love you out of him, but he was so physically exhausted, and people that are going through lung cancer and kidney failure on top of it, they get so mentally and physically exhausted. Plus, he was losing his mind. Let's not go there. But he was losing his mind due to lack of oxygen, due to the mask pressing on his lungs. And so when I walked out of the room with my aunt, my step aunt, he didn't even look at us. My stepmom hugged both of us. I took one last look at him, knowing that he was going to die the next day, because my mom did the exact same thing. She held on until I got down there, said my goodbyes, and then she passed away. And I was down in Denver with my family as she passed away at 5 a.m. And so, yeah. So I would say to you, start spending as much time as you can with this person, and then write all the good things about this person down on a piece of paper. So that way, when it comes to setting up the funeral, when it comes to actually giving a speech at the funeral, you can at least have composure of your thoughts.
Yes, yes. I I was thinking along these lines because I need to also know what to tell my family, how they could behave. And I was thinking, and I could be wrong, but I was thinking, me or my family crying at the funeral is not empathy, but selfishness, because it's about my pain as opposed to celebrating the life of the person who just passed away.
It's all about celebrating life, and unfortunately, I think I'm gonna be in lockdown, you guys, when it reaches a year. But it's all about celebrating life, and trust me, my dad wasn't the happiest camper at the end. He the week he went into the hospital, he was sick. He was sick. He even commented to my aide, who was with me at the time, "I'm sick," which she try. We all tried to help him. He refused everyone's help. He was just grumpy, and he refused everyone's help in the 9 days that he was here. I had oxygen compressor. Um, you, if you guys would have seen me back then, I couldn't do video because all you guys could have heard is the oxygen compressor. So he just wanted to be left alone, but yet didn't know how to ask for help. So the lesson that he taught me in his dying hours is to be grateful for life and to ask for help. So I think, Gianpiero, that you have to go sit, as hard as it may be, go sit with your uncle. Go tell him I love you, and tell him, stroke his head. I mean, as difficult as that may be, just go sit with him and make sure that he's okay, because these doctors are not, and they're certainly not letting people in right now, but these doctors are on the front lines, and they need the patient advocates of the family members to be patient advocates.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I would think, just go sit with him and then compose your thoughts around him, and see if, I don't know how weak he is, but see if you can get him to speak about what he wants you to speak about at his funeral. I mean, there's a concept. I mean, I pretty much know what my dad wants me to speak about when we do have the celebration of life for him. And yes, I'll get up and do it gracefully. And so, but I just feel like if you can spend time with the dying, and I know it's hard right now, you guys, because of social distancing, and but I just feel like if you can spend time with the dying, do it.
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna figure out a way to do that, but I think it's true.
I mean, you have um tech, you have technology.
Yes.
You can FaceTime, and the week, I hate to say this, but the weekly response you can get, at least you know he is saying something, and then write that down. I mean, my dad got a week I love you. I got a week I love you many, many, many times out of my dad the day before he died of a massive heart attack. Um, he said to me, I love you. He didn't get the concept of I'm going home. I'll be
Yeah.
back in about a week, but and that week never happened. But he didn't get the concept I'll be back to see you through chemo. He got the concept of I love you. I love you. I need to go home, but he didn't get the concept of um, I'm going home. He got the concept of I love you, which that counts. So I don't know if I know that, and this is true. This is why I'm recording this. I know that some hospitals right now for coronavirus have FaceTime, HIPAA compliant FaceTime. And for those of you that don't know what HIPAA is a patient privilege, don't share medical information law that you sign all this paperwork. But I know that hospitals right now have the HIPAA compliant um, things. I know that Zoom is HIPAA compliant, you guys. So ZOOM, that is HIPAA compliant. Considering they got hacked, but that is HIPAA compliant. And so, John Paulos, I'm going to talk to you offline and
Yes.
figure this out because it sounds like we can figure this out together. It sounds
Thank
like
you.
you're one stuck duck and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I deal with social distancing and slash grieving loss of my uncle and go, having someone go through kidney failure is not fun. Trust me, my
Yeah.
both my mom and but my mom got meningitis, and so she went through kidney failure. My dad got lung cancer late, and so but what he started with was kidney failure, and yeah, I was in the attitude of if he needs to go down to a bigger hospital, I was in the attitude of let's do it, let's get him out of here and save a life here, and then we'll figure out the cancer as it comes. But nope, they wanted to keep him up here, and um, they almost sent him down to dialysis to clear his kidneys enough to do the biopsy on his
Mhm.
lung. So that was an interesting story in itself. But because of people dying left, right, and center of what's going on right now, the older population who has kidney failure needs to be looked after as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think this was very beneficial, like this conversation. I
Well,
appreciate it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here to help. I'm here to help you guys.
Thank you.
I let's let's have an open conversation about death. Let's have an open conversation about coronavirus. Let's have an open conversation about social isolation. Let's have an open conversation about social distancing. Let's have these open conversations. Let's have the open conversations about how many people lost their jobs right now. And I just looked at a stat off of Education Weekly
Mhm.
about how many states closed. No wonder why my teacher friends are freaking out. No wonder why
Yeah.
I uh, I have I have several teaching friends in my phone, and I'm like, why are you guys freaking out? And it's like, okay, now I understand why the teachers are freaking out. So
Yeah.
I'm a little slow on the uptake. It took me a couple weeks to realize what was, not to say I didn't know what was going on
Mhm.
until March, but it took me a couple weeks to understand the full concept of what's going on.
Yes, yes. And I believe this is a good time. I was introduced to the concept not long ago of suffering and suffering well.
Yes.
This is a good time where we could just suffer with each other, be there for each other, cry with those that cry, be there for those that need the
Yeah.
support, and through speaking, through conversations. And I think this is the time.
Yeah, this is the time. Use
Yeah,
technology to do it. And
yes.
then yeah. So John Paulos, where can people find you if they choose to do so?
I will, because my name is so, it's not a common name. Giampiero at Scattolon.com is my email address, or I am on at Giampiero M. Scattolon on Facebook, G Scattolon in Instagram. I will send you my information, or you can
Yeah,
post my information there.
yeah, we
If
will.
some,
We will
if some
post the information in the show notes.
if somebody wants a listening ear or a conversation, uh, they can reach out to me and I can talk to them on the phone. I know what it's like to be listened to. And part of being listening to is also discovering yourself, like that, whatever is wants to come out, it needs to come out. And it does happen through conversations. And I'm willing to help.
Well, thank you. And you should take John Peel up on that, you guys, because, or take me up on that, because I'm willing to help too. I'm just sitting at home doing schoolwork and
Yeah.
recording podcasts. But if you guys get a hold of me, I can jump on a phone call with you guys and figure it out, because I am coming from a place of not fear, not panic attack. So let's make this world a better and happier place, you guys. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You just listened to Ask Win, the podcast. To become a guest in the show, visit our website at askwin.weebly.com or call 816-591-3399. Just look for Danielle. Connect with Win on Twitter at WinKellyCharles and like our Facebook page at Butterflies of Wisdom. You can also purchase Win's book through Amazon.com or get a copy of the audiobook through Audible. Ask Win, the podcast.